Hi and welcome. My name is Melissa Rohan and I am the founder and head of school here at Waterfront Academy. And today you are joining me for Q&A with Melissa. We discuss different questions people have that I get from doing tours or going around in the area, in my community and neighborhood, or on what I see, and sometimes people just ask me questions. And so today I really wanted to talk about reading. I haven't podcast in a couple months. Summer camp, things got a little busy. So I'm coming right back at it, and there's been a lot of things that have happened, and I'm going to try and respond to those things, not specifically with me or the school, but in general. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that, and I really wanted to talk about literacy, because that is one thing that has been on the headlines back, I want to say in May, and that's also when I stopped doing podcasts. So I really wanted to address that a little bit, because I wrote a blog piece responding to what was going on, and I wasn't light and bright. I was really diving into it, and it's a really long article, and I would imagine why you would open up the article and decide not to read it because it's just so long. So here I'm going to talk about it. So back in May, there was two things that had happened. One, there was I saw it on Instagram, but I think it was a TikTok, where this high school senior in his high school had written on note cards a sentence that was, I would say, it was high school level. It might have been middle school level. It wasn't challenging. It wasn't easy either. But anyways, and he was going around to his friends, and he would ask them to read what was on the note card, that one sentence. And over again, these poor high school students were unable to either read it, or if they were able to read it, it didn't mean that they understood what they read. And that is very, very sad. As a mother, it's really sad. And I remember bringing this up with somebody, and they were like, well, why are you sad about this? Your children know how to read and comprehend what they're reading. This wouldn't be a problem with your children. And I was like, yes, that's true. But I think it's a sad state of affairs for them, because these are going to be their peers. And that's sad. That's just really sad to me. So anyways, that is kind of where I started from when I wrote that article. And I did a little bit of research. So essentially, only one third of American students are proficient in reading. 1/3. And that is a very sad state of affairs. Illiteracy is climbing. It's not devastating yet, but it is climbing. And so I've got some thoughts about it, and you can read them. And I think some of it's a little bit controversial, and I don't love that it is controversial. And I don't like being controversial. And two, I don't think it should be controversial. Okay. But here we are. And so I think there are some things that parents can do to make sure that their child is not part of the sad statistic. And it starts really young. And Dr. Montessori herself was surprised by this, because when she had started her work, it was the standard where children wouldn't learn to read and write until they were in first grade, right? So that would have been around like 6 or 7 years old. And then through her research, she found children who were like an older 3, maybe, but definitely 4 and 5, who were learning how to read and write. And so she proposed starting younger. And she had a lot of different things that she had found, created, where children could learn how to read and write that young. And it would be appropriate, right? And so I think that that is really important. She talks a lot about writing before reading and getting those fine motor skills strong enough for the children to write. And so I think if you're a parent of a child who is very young, I would start there. I would start making sure that the fine motor skills are there. And there's a lot of things that you could do at home to prepare their hands. For example, they can help with kneading dough or playing with modeling clay, right? Those are fun ways and ways to keep the child part of the community, right? So if they are kneading dough, then they're helping with making bread for the house. That is part of the community. Or if they are working with modeling clay, they could be making, I don't know, bowls that you could use, I don't know, or pitchers for flowers that they pick. You know, so there could races. So there are things that the children can do. Just dustpan and broom. They could be cleaning up. Using those hands with very work that's challenging for them and big for them. Sweeping with the broom. Those types of things. So you could start as young as 2, 3 years old with things like that, right? They love that. Moving big buckets of water around, and grabbing a sponge and watching the water, soak up water with the sponge and then, wring it out so that all the water comes out, or with the towel, washcloth, and wring it out. Those kinds of things to really strengthen the hands. Coloring is also a really great way, not only to get that fine motor grip and the 3-finger pencil grip going, but also with hand-eye coordination and making sure that they can stay within the lines. And there are some techniques that we can teach parents later on, but right out the gate, I would go ahead and try and find things at home to help with that fine motor skills. It's sensorial. It's wonderful. The other thing, so that's the writing part. On the reading part, they're going to need a vocabulary, right? They're going to need a vocabulary. And so the best way to grow the vocabulary with your child is to speak to your child. And I think that is so obvious, but I get it. As a parent, it doesn't seem obvious in real time. Okay, so here is your permission to speak to your child. So let me tell you what that looks like. When you are doing anything that is normal part of your day, so whether that is getting ready in the morning, fixing breakfast, getting in the car, going to the grocery store, whatever it is, getting dressed, going to the bathroom, all of these things that you do, brushing your teeth, getting ready for bed, everything that you do, you narrate that. Narrate it. And it's really funny because we do everything, at least in my experience, I do all of those things in silence and I do not narrate them. I don't narrate them in my brain. I mean, my brain is fast wired to like be thinking about something else while I'm brushing my teeth. I'm not actually thinking about the teeth that I'm brushing while I am brushing my teeth. And so to narrate all these things that you do every day, and you know, that you don't even need to think about it while you're doing it. It is challenging at first to narrate the whole thing. But I challenge you to do that with your young children. But it is important for them to build that vocabulary if they are going to read. And so that I think is really, really important. Also, the other thing that you can do is sing. Singing is wonderful. Singing, poems, clapping rhymes, those types of things. Those are wonderful for children in learning vocabulary, because in addition to the vocabulary, they are learning how to speak, and when to inflect up and when to come down, and so they're learning kind of the song quality of the language that we speak, and that is super important as well. And it's just rhyming words. Those are so much fun, and like the children love it too. And so finding books that you can read, again, narrating-ish, you're reading a book, that have rhyming words. I look for that because that's going to be important later on when they learn how to read and write. And so rhyming is really important. It just is. And so, you know, get down and dirty and do that stuff with them. Like, get down on the floor and sing with them, do clapping rhymes, and, you know, and the songs that have like all the little gestures, and do that. And this is your permission to do it, and be as goofy as possible. Like, it's fun, and enjoy having fun again. I think as adults, like, we forget to have fun, but even as adults, we need to have fun. It's important. It's important to have fun, and not to be so serious all the time. And I think we forget that. And children need that. They need to see that in us. And so I think is really important, especially when they're really, really young. And then when they get older, all right, so let's say at 3, 4, 5, they learn the very basics of reading and writing, right? Well, in order for them to become proficient in it, then we need them to continue practicing it. And we're going to need them to love it, right? And Dr. Montessori did a lot of this, in that a lot of our activities, our manipulatives, our lessons, whatever word you want to use, they're games. And she even calls them games, because games are really important for children who are 6, 7, 8, 9. Games are important. It cannot be, it's not appropriate for a child that age to like be on top of them and forcing them to do stuff, right? Like, they're not going to learn that way, right? They're social and they want to be social. And if it's a game, that's a great way to learn and have fun and be social. And so I would suggest board games as a family. That is what I would do with your children. Find all these different games, and maybe they have like a little clue card, or I don't know, like you pick from the pile kind of card, and it has some kind of activity like jump 3 or jump to the, I don't know, the cherry. I don't know. Whatever it is, and it has some kind of a command type card. I'm not a game person in that way that I can come up with the words in it. I like to have fun, and I like to play games. I don't know it enough to like be well versed in it. I got my strengths and I've got my weaknesses. This might be my weakness. But I would play a lot of these games, and so that they have to read, and it would be like, so like there would be the incentive of being a part of this community, this group, you know, and having fun. And I would recommend that. The other thing is that like giving them incentives, positive incentives to write, right? Like there's games like Hangman, right? That would be just the words, but it is really important, right? I'm trying to think of some other type games, but games would be really important. Scrabble, there's a junior Scrabble. Those types of things would be really great at this age, because they would be creating words, they're thinking through things, it's fun, right? And then like, you know, the children love presenting stuff, right? And we see this this is more in a school versus in at home, but I would say giving them opportunities to be the to have that leadership, to have that all the attention on them for a moment. And this isn't all children, right? Everybody has their thing, but there's a lot of children at this age that being the center of attention is so amazing to them. And so if they get that opportunity, like they really rise. And so giving them the opportunity to read a book and talk about it, or to do some research on something that they're very interested about. So that is kind of some ideas there. And the older they get, right, the more reading should become more and more fun for them, right? So also, whether it's a comic book, if they're really into that, or you know, girls seem to be really interested in drama type stuff. I see like these titles, and you can, you know, and they're very dramatic, you know, and boys are really interested into like adventures, I'm being very general right here. It goes many different ways, but you know, because you do have girls who are super into sci-fi, right, where it would probably be traditionally boys, but or whatever. But I'm trying to give you an idea that like it really should be fun and exciting, and giving them room to grow. And also in writing, in my head, at this age when they're first starting out, right? You could either be encouraging or discouraging as the adult. That is your choice, right? Do you want to encourage or do you want to discourage? And when they're starting out a skill, I like to do it in parallel, right? So I'm going to teach you the skill, right? I'm going to show you. It's not really teaching. I'm going to show you. And you're going to practice. And then I want to see the output, right? Now, so what does that look like? In our classroom, I might present nouns. Okay, so I'm going to present nouns. And I'm going to show the student how to work with the materials, specifically on nouns. Literally, it takes less than a week. Okay, this is not complicated. And so they have all the different categories of nouns, and they have the materials and the work. Okay. And then, like, I'll ask them to write about anything. Let's say, write about a favorite vacation and tell me where you went and what you did and da-da-da-da-da, right? Well, we just learned about nouns, right? So I'm going to be looking for proper nouns, right? And noun agreement and you know, things like that. And so they're going to write. Now, when I read it, because I want to see the output and what they learned and what they didn't learn, is I'm going to read it and I'm like, that's great. Like, they did something that was really wonderful. They wrote. Now, I might see some proper nouns that are not capitalized. And I might see nouns not that are plural but spelled incorrectly, right? Or vice versa. What does that look like? Like I could say foots instead of feet, right? Or something like that. And so I could go in and be like, red X on everything, you got this. And then the only thing that child has learned is like, oh, geez, I'm a terrible writer. And then that's it. It's done. They're always going to have that. Always. I don't want to be... it would be really hard to like get them to feel positive about it after that. Okay? So, alternatively, what I could do is we could go over it together. And I could say something along the lines, do you remember when we did this material and we learned about proper and improper nouns? Or, and when we learned about proper nouns. And and I was like, so could you find some proper nouns here? And they might be like, oh, that's a proper noun. Yes. So what are we supposed to do with proper nouns? Capitalize them. Yes. Okay, cool. And then they erase and they do it, right? And so now I probably won't see that problem again. And if I do, I just, hey, do you see any proper nouns here? And that's it. And they feel good about it. They come away from it feeling good. They don't come away feeling like a failure. And I think that like what we're doing at a young age is we're already discouraging learners before they even got anywhere, right? And so when you have only a third of American students at proficient at reading, that doesn't tell me that our students aren't capable, because I know that's not true. They're more than capable. It says to me that at some point, either the parents weren't given enough resources or information to do the very basic things, which aren't very natural or comfortable. And so we would need to hear it and understand the importance of it as parents. Or that the teachers are maybe just too tired to take the time to sit down with the child, and instead of discouraging, encouraging. And I don't want to say that the teachers are bad, because I don't believe that to be true. I think that like to be a teacher requires somebody to make a decision of how important our future is and want to be part of that future. And so they're making a huge sacrifice every day working with the future of America. So no, I don't think it's bad teachers. I think that they are just unfortunately too tired. And so I think that there needs to be some changes that happen way above my pay grade. Policy-wise. And because I think that where we're heading, because it's not going up, it's only going down, is really disappointing and sad. And that's my Q&A for today. One thing, and I've taken up a lot of time to talk about it, and so I was going to bring up some others, but I'll have to do it another day, because I'm super passionate on this issue. I think that there's so much that could be done, and I've only covered like a little little bit, and I hope that whatever I had to say today can maybe help a parent in helping their child in reading. And I get it that this is a lot bigger than 25 minutes. I only covered like a little bit. And I hope that maybe we can come back to this. I could do like I don't know. I could come back to. I already did a workshop on, raising a reader. So if you want to look at my workshop, you could do that. And I just feel so passionate about it. I love reading. I love writing personally. I love that my children are really great readers. Like, they love learning. Yeah, like, I want that for all children, right? And I hope I can help. All right. With that, have a beautiful day, and I will be back. Obviously, I have more to cover.